Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So today I want to go through a lot of news that came out this week. So I did a video already covering the producer's letter and a lot of the topics there. And in addition to the producer's letter, several in the executive producer did a 1 hour AMA and he just went through and covered a lot of various topics. So I watched that video. I'm just going to go through and comment on the various things he said, various kind of news he broke, and we're just going to talk about it, and I'll note the timestamp and all that stuff in terms of where it is in the video, and I'll also link the video below in the description so you can go watch it if you want for the full context. So let's go ahead and get started. At the around 2-minute 4-second mark, Severlin and Cordovan talked about the Saltmarsh mini expansion. I already talked about this in my last video, but basically if you're not aware, if you haven't seen that video, there's going to be what's called a mini expansion released in DDO this year. And the idea is that it's going to be kind of midway between an expansion and an adventure pack in terms of the content offered and the price. He did say that the estimate right now is 8 to 9 dungeons. He said that's just an estimate. It could go up or down, but that's what they're aiming for right now, but it's not yet decided. But in any case, Saltmarsh, it's a classic module from 1981. It's about a haunted mansion. So if you like that kind of stuff, then you have something to look forward to. Let's continue on. Around the 3-minute 41-second mark in the video, he mentioned the Isle of Dread. So the Isle of Dread is something they've been talking about since 2018, and they still want to do it, but they just said it's too big to fit into 2021. So that means no Isle of Dread this year. They said that around the 10-minute mark in the video, they said it's probably going to be the next big thing. So personally, what I'm getting from this is I think it will be the next expansion. They haven't confirmed that, but in my opinion, it's starting to sound like it's going to be the next expansion. I would expect it to come, this is just me making a prediction, probably like mid late 2022 is what I'm thinking, but this could always change. You know how SSG is. Sometimes they keep pushing stuff off, and sometimes they do stuff sooner than you'd think. Sometimes they surprise us, so we'll have to see. But that's what I'm guessing. If I had to put money down, that's where I'd bet. That's when I think we'll see it, and we'll probably see something like a raptor mount. I would expect something like that, as a part of that expansion. I think we'll see. It sounds like from what they've said here, the Isle of Dread is something that they've continually talked about, so it's something they want to do, and it sounds like they're, for the most part, committed to doing it. So we'll see what happens as this year goes forward. Okay, at the 5-minute 5-second mark, they talk about the level cap increase. So they said the current plan is that the next big expansion will include this. They said that the Epic Destiny revamp needed to happen first, and they've already mentioned in the prior letter that that is going to happen this year, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now, as far as the level cap increase, they did say the Epic TR stuff is not changing. So for example, the way Epic True Reincarnation works currently is you go from 30 to 20. They said that's going to stay the same. So what I would expect to see is some new form of reincarnation. I think that's pretty much a certainty. They didn't talk about that specifically, but with a level cap increase, there's going to probably be another layer added to the reincarnation system, whether that means you go from 35 to 30 or 40 to 30 or 40 to 1 or 40 to 20. We don't know, but I think there will be some new layer added with more past lives to go after, for the reincarnation crowd who loves doing that. Now, as far as the level cap increase goes in terms of when it's going to happen, this is something that I talked about in my prior video covering the AMA, and we've seen signals from SSG over the past 6 months or maybe or so that they have continually shied away. They've continued to shy away more and more from it. They're continuing to push it back, and we don't know when it's going to happen. I would expect it to happen in 2022, probably mid-late 2022. That's what we'll look out for, but at least for now, it seems it's not going to happen soon. I think that's a good thing, because I think partly what's driving their actions here is the response from players. As far as I can tell, the player base in general, not everyone, but in general, is not for this and doesn't want to see that. So they're going to have to really put together some interesting things as part of this level cap increase to really get players excited for this. I think they have a good chance to do that, but it's not going to happen anytime soon, probably in 2022. But they didn't say that specifically, but that's what I would predict, 2022. Okay, next at the 7-minute mark, they talked about VIP. They said they specifically have learned from the Lotro expansion that the mini expansion needs to not reduce the value of VIP. And they want to make sure the mini expansion offers enough value, and they said they will do better. If you aren't aware, Lotro is the kind of sister game to DDO. So Lotro and DDO are both run by Standing Stone Games. They did this mini expansion in Lotro, and it wasn't received that well. As far as I can tell in my research into the issue, I don't play Lotro, but apparently it was not received very well. So what they want to do is give VIPs value, because they're with a mini expansion and more expansions, they're taking away value from VIP, because with an expansion, VIP players don't get it for free, whereas VIPs get all the adventure packs for free. So they're going to need to do something, and they did specifically say that they don't know what form this is going to be, whether it's going to, they said there's two possibilities. They may go down the route of giving VIPs a discount on the mini expansion, or they could go down the road of just increasing the value of VIP by adding more perks to it. So that might be in the form of an XP bonus, something like that. They haven't said, but I would expect to see one of those two things. I think they'll probably go down the route of giving VIP another bonus. So I don't know what form that's going to take. They haven't mentioned that, but probably some kind of XP bonus or some kind of little boost like that. That's what I would expect. We'll see if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm expecting. They've continued on at the 10-minute, 13-second mark. They talk about lag. So they said they're experimenting with infrastructure changes and the effects system. Changes to the effect system is one thing that they've talked about continuously. One of the problems they said they think is continuing contributing to lag is that there are many different effects in DDO, and these things just bog down the servers. They did allude to the fact that they've been hiring or putting more resources into looking into lag. I mean, lag is something they're very aware of, and I know that a lot of players are really particularly annoyed by it, because there is, by a lot of players' standards, a lot more lag in DDO than they're used to in other games. So it is something that they know about and are working on. 12-minute, 20-second mark, they talk about chat issues. So the chat issues, this is something that, you know, I've experienced a lot because it's happened on Thelanis, and it was really bad months ago, and they made some changes which I think improved it. Before, what was happening was the chat just wasn't working. The voice chat was, and text chat was just not working, the party chat. You would go into and join a group, and you just couldn't talk to anyone. It seems like the work they did on this has improved it. So it was happening to me, say, like 75% of the time, and now it rarely happens to me on Thelanis. So I think they have improved this a lot, but it certainly is not solved completely. And they did mention that they're aware of it and working on it. Okay, next, at the 13-minute, 30-second mark, they talk about player character models. They said, like they have prior, they want to be careful with model changes, because one of the things with updating character models, the problem you run into is a lot of players like their character, and they've been playing their character for over a decade in a lot of cases, and they don't want to see changes. Even if most players would look at it and consider it a cosmetic improvement, it's still changing the look of the character. So what they've done is they've instead continued to introduce more racial variants, so that you can, so say like Wood Elf, for example, that way they don't have to revamp Elf. If you don't like Elf, you can just, or if you want to use the revamped look, you can go run Wood Elf. If you don't want to, then you could continue to run Elf. So they've taken this route. They did mention one exception though, which is Half Elf, which I thought was pretty funny, because Half Elf has kind of been a meme within players, just how kind of ugly they are. So they did mention that Half Elf specifically they want to address, because they don't think that anyone, they think it's basically inarguable that they're pretty ugly, and they don't see a lot of players really claim. I don't think there's going to be a lot of players really clamoring to keep Half Elves the way they are. But in any case, at the 15-minute and 20-second mark, they talk about the fact that they wanted new hairstyles and colors, so they could offer more options. One thing I would love to see is beard options for Purple Dragon Knights, because they don't have that currently. I think that would be awesome. Continuing on to the 17-minute, 22-second mark, they talk about cosmetic storage. The way that Mirrors of Glamoring work is, it makes it very difficult, they've said. The way those work is they are tied to the actual items, so it causes an issue where they can't, there's technical limitations, they can't put those in the storage bags. They said it's a long-term possibility, but not a short-term possibility. But I will say that this is something I've actually talked to Severlin about in person. 2018, I asked him about it back then, and So they've, this is something they've long been aware of, and they've long wanted to address. You want to incentivize people to buy cosmetics, but when you don't have enough storage, it causes a problem. But whatever technical issue is going on here, I think that this is something that they need to spend the time and do, because it's just really, I think it's important for them to support cosmetics. A lot of players really like cosmetics, and now I'm not privy to the financial details of SSG, but I would think that cosmetic sales are something that they do well with, and having a storage limit on cosmetics feels like, to me, it would undercut that kind of revenue. I think it's something they do need to address for sure. Okay, next they continue in the 17-minute 35-second mark. They talk about mount storage. So they said in the short term this is being worked on, and there's a developer that actually posted a teaser of this, and I'll put it on the screen right now. But what they're doing is they're reworking mount storage to work like the cosmetic pet storage. It's going to have the same kind of interface, and it's based off that system. So they are improving storage a little bit in this way. So once this gets done, then you should be saved at least one inventory slot, if not a few, if you have a couple of mounts in your inventory. But this should be a way to at least free up some inventory for players, so that's good. At the 19-minute 20-second mark, they talk about the hardcore league, and this is something I talked about in my last video. But they're planning for 2 seasons right now in 2021. The first one coming in April. It's going to have a Lord of Eyes, Lord of Stone kind of Zoriat theme to it. From what we're hearing here is what it sounds like. They said they're probably going to do less going forward, because that's based on feedback from players that there hasn't been enough time in between seasons, basically. 20-minute 55-second mark, they briefly talked about Hirelings, that they want to revamp and improve them, but they currently have no plans to do that. At the 21-minute 52-second mark, they talk about getting the game to 4K. So they want to do that, but in order to do this, they have one problem, which is, as you all might notice when you play DDO, all the icons in the game, they don't scale. They are fixed images. So the problem they're running into is they have to redo every single icon in the entire game in order to make stuff scale. So that's an issue that they have. So I would expect them to do this eventually, but it's probably one of those things that's more on the back end. So hopefully they can get it to 4K, but honestly, I don't really care as a player. I mean, we're playing DDO. We don't play this for the graphics, obviously. This is an old game, so whatever. I don't really care, but it'll probably happen eventually. Okay, the 26-minute 18-second mark, they talk about Megaservers briefly. They said until lag issues are addressed, this won't happen. But however, one thing they'd allude to is apparently they have done some testing on the back end on this, because Severlin did mention this briefly. So they've, at least sounds like they've done more than just talk about it, at least. So I know Megaservers is something, and server merge is something that most players want. I think that would be awesome if they could do it. But they did say specifically that until lag issues are addressed, this won't happen. Which, when have lag issues ever been fixed completely? So, like I've said in previous videos, I don't think it's going to happen. I hope they prove me wrong, but I think this is something they will talk about, and it's probably something they want to do. But there's so many issues that they have to overcome in doing merges that I'm not expecting it to ever happen. So let's move on to the 28-minute mark. They talk about storage. They said they need character bank storage that is better. But the problem with adding storage, and I know a lot of players have continuously asked for more storage, but the problem is players also ask for less lag, and putting more storage in the game is one of the things that can cause lag. So they need to figure out a way to improve character storage but not increase lag. So that's something they said they need to figure out. They said there's no planned player housing in 2021. They also added that. Okay, at the 29-minute 45-second mark, they briefly talked about kind of Reaper and the leadership system. So one thing they want to do, and they've talked about this previously, is they want to change Reaper enhancements to allow a leadership feature. So when someone joins your group, say you have full Reaper points and someone has 0 Reaper points, you can basically, as long as they're part of your group, they can basically share some of their Reaper enhancements with you while you're a part of their group. So that's an interesting idea. I think it's a really good idea, because they need to do something to kind of make it easier for players to, I guess, transition into Reaper, and not something to help players group something that can kind of reduce the walls and the various splits in the game between different levels of players to help people group. So I think it's a pretty good idea. They also mentioned they want to change Reaper enhancements to be more of a progression system. So when they say that, I'm thinking that what they're talking about is, instead of getting everything up front with Reaper, and they've done some changes previously where they've scaled out particularly the hit point bonuses over levels, we probably will see more of that in the future, to where you won't get like all of your Reaper points. You'll see more and more of your Reaper benefits scale over the levels instead of getting it up front. I think that's probably what we'll see. Okay, let's continue on. At the 30-minute, 30-second mark, they briefly talked about Greyhawk, which is something that Severlin said probably won't happen in DDO. He didn't say this directly, but he alluded to possible licensing issues. And they said, plus they want to do more Forgotten Realms and Eberron stuff. So in other words, don't expect Greyhawk if you're kind of a fan of that area. So let's continue on. 32-minute, 15-second mark, they briefly talked about Psionics. And it sounds like this is something that the dev team, or maybe Severlin, is passionate about, and they said they want to do it, but they said it's probably going to be a large undertaking. They said Alchemist took 3 times longer in terms of development than previous classes, and they said Psionics would also take a long time. So it's probably something that they one of the things on their list that they want to do, but from the way they're talking about it, I don't think this will happen anytime soon. Maybe like 2023 at the earliest, when I would expect Psionics. But it does sound like something they definitely want to do, but it's just a very long-term thing. I mean, maybe in 2022, but with stuff they've already talked about for 2022, you know, possibly getting an Isle of Dread and possibly another expansion, you know, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe it will, but what I would predict is 2023 at the earliest for Psionics. Okay, moving on, the 34-minute, 30-second mark, they talked about balance changes. So players always ask about balance changes. And they said their current focus, as we all know, is on bows. They are planning a new tree, Horizon Walker, that's bow focused this year. They're currently working on revamping bow animations, rebalancing bows. So one of the things they did mention is they needed to redo the animations so that bows can be sped up, because that's one of the problems with bow combat right now, is it's just too slow to be worth it. And things like crossbows in terms of ranged are just ahead of bows. So it's something they're working on. If you are a bow player or a fan of that combat style, then you can expect really good things this year. You have a lot to look forward to. Okay, moving on. At the 36-minute, 25-second mark, they talked about Epic Destiny rework. So this is something that they want to work, and I've mentioned this in my last video, but they want to make this work more like heroic trees. So what we can expect in the future when they do this revamp of Epic Destinies is you'll be able to draw from more than just one tree, kind of like you can with heroic enhancements. They also mentioned that they want to do some balance work on the Epic Destinies, and they also mentioned that they want to make it scale more, so you may not get all of your points up front. So in the future, you may get, say, part of your Epic Destiny trees at level 20, and then the rest of the points you may unlock as you level up. We don't know the complete changes to the Epic Destiny, so maybe they'll make up for this in some ways. I know this won't be popular with some players, because right now you can get all your full access to your Epic Destiny trees at level 20 right now, and this might change in the future. However, we don't know, to be fair to them, we don't know exactly what they're planning yet. They might do something really interesting. They may make certain trees even more attractive with changes. But I will say that from the language they're putting out here, I would expect that in the future, your character probably, I don't know this for sure, but probably won't be as powerful at level 20 in the future as it is right now. So you probably won't get all your Epic Destiny points to use in your Epic Destiny enhancements until level 30 going forward. And we don't know the full aspect of this, but I will say right now, as I said in the last video, if you're planning to do epic past lives, or you need to do epic past lives, I would just go ahead and do those now, because I have a feeling, based on what I'm hearing, my prediction would be that it's going to be, your character is going to be less powerful, kind of specifically at the lower Epic Destiny, or the lower epic levels than it is right now, just because it sounds like you won't be getting your full Epic Destiny points at level 20 going forward. So yeah, that's it for Epic Destinies. If you need to do them, do them. You need to do your epic past lives, I mean. Okay, let's continue on. The last thing they mentioned at the 58-minute, 13-second mark is they want to do a new iconic in 2021, but they said it might not fit into the schedule. So terms of iconics, if we see another one, what will it be? I know that Sorcerer is the last of the free-to-play classes not to have an iconic. So if I had to put money down, I think we would see an iconic Sorcerer. They didn't mention this specifically, but for me as a prediction, that's what I would predict. We just got a Barbarian with the... For a long time, I thought that Durgar Barbarian would make sense, but we just got a Barbarian iconic with shifters. So the last one remaining as far as the free-to-play classes is the Sorcerer. So that's what I'm thinking we'll get. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think about this. I hope this helped kind of summarize things. I didn't go through every single thing that was mentioned. This is mostly the highlights. There are some things I didn't mention, but I think I hit all the highlights. So, yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions or comments, I will respond to those as much as I can. That's going to be it for today. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Have a good one. Take care.